good? What's really good? I'm Rustin Watt, and this is the SatsforLife podcast. We are a Bitcoin and liberty-focused podcast delivering education and news. Give us a like, a share, subscribe to us on YouTube, or your favorite podcast spot. Premium members at Patreon will get the SatsforLife mug, premium content, and grow with us in this journey that is Bitcoin. We at SatsforLife are not financial advisors. We implore that you trust but verify everything you see here and in your various media. Do your own research and make financial decisions for yourself, and never stop learning. SatsforLife is here to do our part in bridging the education gap in economics and Bitcoin and have some fun along the way. Now, a lot has happened. We're going to focus on what went down in the Senate, and we're going to start with Senator Toomey. And this is after creating a bipartisan amendment that even the Treasury, yes, the penguin herself, Janet Yellen, agreed to.
Now, I don't think any one of us co-sponsors thinks that our solution is absolutely perfect, but it is a big improvement over the underlying text. I would also point out that this space is changing. It's changing fast. A year from now, people will have come up with innovations and applications that we can't even imagine, that probably nobody has even thought of yet. And what I don't want to do is impose a burden that's going to stifle that kind of innovation. What we shouldn't do is have an overly broad mandate or reporting requirement on people who can't even comply. We shouldn't favor or punish any particular methodology or platform design or validation mechanism. And we shouldn't, Mr. President, stifle innovation. So there's time to do this. There's an agreement. It's bipartisan. The White House is on board. We can get this done. We can do it right now. I'm going to yield to my colleague from Wyoming before making a unanimous consent request.
Okay, so what you have there is Senator Toomey bringing forward the most common sense, easy, bipartisan, right? It's the most pragmatic solution, all the people that went into putting this amendment together. Now, I ask you, go listen to more of Senator Toomey in Congress discussions, in his speeches, in hearings. YouTube him on Bitcoin. There is passion from a senator. Okay? It's 2021. You can identify as a platypus, and there are senators passionate about Bitcoin. Now, we're going to go over here to Senator Lummis, and I watched this live. I was tracking it throughout the weekend. I'm going to share a thread of the things that transpired over the weekend, who spoke, what was going on, links in there. A great thread from LogScale detailing some things, some alternative approaches and different ways of looking at it. And if you are looking at it as Log was and keeping the option open, and as we continue here, we'll continue. So let's move to Senator Lummis. And in watching her this weekend, my eyes almost welled up because it was just seeing this type of passion in the Senate, in America, and I know how we are with politics. But being an American myself and knowing how important it is for America on the global scale and what that can do for people if it's embraced, and how that will lead to more global prosperity, peace, free trade, free markets, all the things we're looking for. So seeing this is incredible, and we're going to build on that. Senator Lummis now.
America is a country of innovation. Right now, our financial system is evolving before our eyes in much the same way that the internet first began to find a foothold in the mid-1990s. Distributed ledgers, digital assets, and other forms of financial technology are in the early stages of transforming the way we share and store value. This amendment has started the debate on many difficult questions relating to financial technology that the Senate must address over the next few years. We're reacting to what was put before us. I wish that we were implementing from the get-go, but that's not where we find ourselves today. So let's get this broker definition as good as possible now and then move forward this fall with other definitions that will be important to producing a regulatory sandbox for digital assets that allow innovators to keep innovating. We're in a difficult space right now. We're transitioning from the industrial economy to the technology, and it's a bumpy ride. It's disruptive for all of us, especially those of us who grew up in the end of the industrial age and are so new to this technology age. But we can adapt, we can be helpful, and we can help forge a very reasonable place for the innovators to work from. There's a proverb that says, "A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step." Mr. President, this amendment is the very first step in a long journey, and we're all going to take it together. This journey is about America renewing its commitment to innovation and retaining its role as the leader in the global economy for future generations. I look forward to working with each of you to make sure we get there, and I promise to be a partner to anyone willing to listen and learn. I urge my colleagues not to object and to allow this amendment to proceed to adoption. Thank you, and I yield back to the Senator from Pennsylvania, Mr. Toomey.
And I want to thank the Senator from Wyoming for her very constructive leadership in this area, and I'll yield at this time to the Senator from Ohio.
So now we're going to go to Senator Portman, who originally had a competing amendment with Lummis, Toomey, and Wyden. They came together, made compromise, and put together a bill that made more individuals happy in the community, communicated directly with the community, put this together, had unanimous consent, and we'll see how it all played out. But Portman, it was very interesting to see how the role he played in getting this put together, his willingness to compromise, and just, again, seeing some great passion and understanding of how important Bitcoin in the industry is. We'll continue.
I just want to say briefly to my colleague from Wyoming and my colleague from Pennsylvania, and also to our other colleagues who've worked with us over the past week or so to come up with a good approach to this issue that is vexing, that we need to figure out how to get this into this legislation. So I support the amendment, of course. I think there's a general consensus that information reporting is a good thing, and that particularly for our constituents who are everyday holders of digital currency, they want to have that reporting in order to be able to pay their taxes properly. The vast majority of them are good, hardworking taxpayers who just want to be able to get what their basis is or what their information is from a broker, just as they would for a stock or a bond. So what we have done here through this language is ensure that while doing that, we're not putting a sweeping provision in place that includes people that shouldn't be included. As an example, and my colleague from Pennsylvania said it very, very well, we're not trying to bring in people who are involved in validating distributed ledger transactions through proof of work, commonly known as miners. We're also not trying to bring into proof of stake validation or stakers. And we're also ensuring that we're not bringing in people who are involved with hardware and software selling for digital wallets. They wouldn't be subject to these rules as well. And I think that was very important to make that clear. I think the language needed clarification. So I'm pleased with the amendment. I would hope that we'd be able to get it passed because I think it's very important to have it as part of this legislation. And I want to thank, again, my colleagues Pennsylvania from Wyoming, as well as Senators Warner, Sinema, Ossoff, Wyden, and others who have worked with us in this process.
Did you hear him just run off a list of names? That was a list of senators that came together to put forth this amendment, work directly with the community, propose it, get the consent, and get consent from the Treasury. And they're speaking on this on C-SPAN in public, bringing us to our next speaker. Soon we're going to have the colleague from Texas. And in this episode, we were going to go over what happened in the Senate, how Bitcoin has taken center stage, as you can see, how we've discovered new allies, and how the prophecy is coming to fruition. So, as we look at this, coming forward, I'm sure I'm not the only one who hasn't been the biggest fan or supporter of Ted Cruz, but you have a former presidential candidate, ran in the primaries, coming forward, speaking out with a lot of passion. And I think people are starting to understand, and the Bitcoin block is growing. I think people like Ted Cruz knew. Over 40,000 calls were made to senators. Thousands were tuned into C-SPAN that have never seen it before. And what transpired was just perfect for what I believe. So many of us believe in the political process in this. But get a little fired up here. Ted Cruz makes some great points, put some good things forward. We see Texas again as a leader in the industry. And this is exciting.
Thank you for bringing this amendment to the floor today. It's very constructive cooperation in this, and let me yield briefly to our colleague from Texas.
Thank you. I want to thank the good efforts of the senators who have led the work in finding a compromise in this regard, in particular Senator Toomey and Senator Lummis, who've worked very, very hard on this issue. Bismarck said many years ago that there are two things you don't want to see being made: sausage and legislation. And when it comes to particularly ugly legislation, this component, the regulation of cryptocurrency, may take the prize for the ugliest we have seen. Moments from now, I expect that we are going to see objections to this compromise amendment that was negotiated. Underlying language in this bill goes into effect. It will have devastating effects. There is a new and exciting industry in the United States of cryptocurrency, whether Bitcoin or otherwise, that are generating jobs, entrepreneurs who are creating new values, new hedges against inflation, new opportunities, and it is fast-moving. It is dynamic. And this infrastructure bill, a bill being sold to the American people as let's build some roads and bridges, has one little portion in there designed to obliterate cryptocurrency. Now, I fully understand that there are some bureaucrats at the Treasury Department who have never seen anything they don't want to regulate the life out of. But if the underlying language in this so-called infrastructure bill becomes law, we will be destroying billions of dollars worth of industry in the United States. We will be destroying jobs in the United States. Many of those jobs are in my home state of Texas. And we will be sending them overseas. Listen, it isn't complicated. Cryptocurrency isn't tied to any particular piece of dirt. So the grand efforts of the United States Senate will be to say, we don't want those jobs in America. We don't want those resources in America. Go somewhere else. The ugly truth with which Bismarck understood, and which is particularly true on cryptocurrency, there aren't 5 senators in this body with any real understanding of how cryptocurrency operates. We have had no hearings on this. The Senate has had no hearings on this. The House, as far as I know, has had no hearings of this. And yet, this body is prepared to obliterate an industry willy-nilly. Or for that matter, the compromise, and listen, the compromise that was put forward would be a meaningful improvement, would do much, much less damage. But even the compromise would essentially kick the can down the road and allow bureaucrats at Treasury to do massive damage. And the bureaucrats at Treasury don't understand this any better than does the United States Senate. The right outcome, I think, is an amendment I introduced: strike the whole damn thing. If we want to legislate on this, actually do our jobs. Be a deliberative body, hold hearings, listen to witnesses, understand the consequences, know what we're doing. That would be the reasonable, rational thing to do. Don't just put out a rule of massive taxes and regulations with no understanding of the consequences and jobs and real people that would be hurt. For whatever reason, the Senate doesn't seem to want to behave reasonably or rationally. And I think the consequences are going to be
Now, I think there were a couple different takes here in saying that the consequences will be long-standing. Yes, he talks about the industry as a whole, but I think he's letting people know your seat may be in danger if you don't take the right side of this, because it is growing. It is a very wealthy and intellectual group of individuals that are now taking part in the political process, full scale, in front of everyone.
I think Senator Toomey and Senator Lummis have worked hard on a compromise to brunt the worst aspects of this legislation. And so I hope the proposal they put forward, or about to put forward, is adopted. But if it is not, I'm going to predict that every one of the 100 senators here is going to come to regret that this body took a part in destroying jobs and a budding industry that will provide billions of dollars of new opportunity. And if the Senate keeps on this course, we're going to send it instead overseas to our competitors. That would be a tragic mistake. Thank you.
Mr. President.
Now we're going to have Senator Toomey bring this up, offer it up for unanimous consent and adoption. And if you look at everyone that has spoken, how common sense this seems, I remember sitting and watching this weekend, and I was like, it's a no-brainer, right? And then I almost shit myself with the military-industrial complex altar boy, Senator Shelby, hopping in here as a little 87-year-old curmudgeon troll, not getting his way, so he's not going to let anyone get their way. It's hilarious, but he put on full display who these people are, how they act, and who really knows what's going on, who's going to benefit people, who's here for liberty and who isn't. And then you're going to see Bernie counteract Mr. Military Industrial Complex. And yes, Bernie makes some good points. But if he understood Bitcoin a little more, he'd know that indirectly he did support the military industrial complex by supporting this fiat system instead of the hard money principles that Bitcoin has, and how that led to Europe and global peace during the more global gold standard period. So Bernie looking at small short-term effects instead of big macro effects and praxeology that we like to look at in Austrian economics. But I thought I would break this up. I just want to play this, see it. I want you to witness it play out, see how idiotic it is, but also understand we are in the big time. Everyone is looking. Everyone saw this. Thousands of people, thousands of new people taking part in the political process saw this. And the senators put it on full display as well. We'll continue here. I'm going to let it play out, and we'll discuss.
Senator from Pennsylvania. I ask unanimous consent that notwithstanding adoption of Substitute Amendment 2137, the Toomey, Warner, Lummis, Sinema, Portman Amendment number 2656 be agreed to.
Is there objection?
Mr. President,
The senator from Alabama.
reserving the right to object, I ask that the Senator from Pennsylvania modify his request to include my amendment number 2535 dealing with defense.
My amendment that has completely nothing to do with yours, I want to attach it to yours. So if anyone objects to this, the rest don't go. What an asshole. Just look at him. We'll continue.
Infrastructure to this bill, and that it be agreed to.
Does the senator from Pennsylvania so modify?
I do.
Is there any objection to the request as modified?
Reserving the right to object.
The senator from Vermont.
Mr. President, is...
Again, I hope Mr. Senator Sanders would do some study in hard money and understand how that leads to peace, diplomacy, free trade, and prosperity. Instead of helicopter money, free everything, tax the individual at 60+%, redistribute wealth. And the misconception in socialist societies is that this redistribution goes to the bottom. It never has. It won't. It goes to the politically connected. Always has, always will. All animals are equal. Some are more equal than others. This has been true 27 times. It's failed. It's continuing to fail. And, Bitcoin might be our last hope to keep the free market system alive. Let's see.
I understand that the senator from Alabama is interested in increasing military spending by some $50 billion. There's a headline in the New York Times today. It doesn't talk about the fact that the United States now spends more than the next 10 nations on the military. It doesn't talk about the fact that the Pentagon is the only major agency.
Now, again, I want to say I agree with all of Senator Sanders' points here. We spend more money than the next 10 countries combined on military spending. The military-industrial complex is out of control. Very good points here. It's just sad that this topic had to come up when Bitcoin and crypto have no connection to this. It is insane. But I do have to agree with Sanders. And as we grow, as we learn, as we understand how hard money limits governments, we'll learn that the World War era from 1914 to today is only possible when you have a fiat currency.
Of government that has not submitted successfully to an independent audit. Doesn't talk about the fact of huge profits among defense contractors. What it does talk about is a hotter future is now inevitable. A UN report says scientists urge immediate switch from fossil fuels to avert greater peril. So I would say to my friend from Alabama, if we're going to invest $50 billion, let us in fact invest in transforming our energy system so that we can save this planet for future generations and prevent the kind of unhealthy deterioration that we will inevitably see if we do not act. So, Mr. President, I object.
The objection is heard.
Mr. President.
Senator from Delaware.
President, I ask.
We get it re-offered up, and then Shelby, that ass clown, comes up again and makes himself look like a total douchebag, and Toomey reinforces it.
Unanimous consent that notwithstanding our option of substitute amendment number 2137, the Toomey Amendment 2656, be considered and agreed to.
Is there objection?
Mr. President,
Senator from Alabama.
reserving the right to object again, I ask that the senator modify his request to include my amendment number 2535 and that it be agreed to.
Does the senator from Delaware so amend?
I do not.
Now to be exposed, Senator Toomey. This is badass. Thank you. And we look forward to continue to work and get things done in this. And this is awesome.
Is there objection to the original request by the senator from Delaware?
I object.
The objection is heard.
Mr. President.
Senator from Pennsylvania.
So for people who've been watching this and aren't familiar with the bizarre practices in this body, I want to just explain briefly what just happened here. Because there's a difference of opinion on whether or not the senator from Alabama should get a vote on his amendment, because that is not agreed to, the body is refusing to take up an amendment that has broad bipartisan support that we all know fixes something that badly needs to be fixed. This isn't like a whim of the senator from Pennsylvania. There's like nobody who disputes that there's a problem here. You want to know the specifics of the problem? Here's, according to the underlying bill, this is what's going to pass. This is what's going to get sent probably ultimately to the president's desk. It's a reporting requirement, a transaction reporting requirement, including name, taxpayer ID number, dollar amount, date. It's imposed on any person who, for consideration, is responsible for regularly providing any service effectuating transfers of digital assets on behalf of another person. Well, look, I'm not even a lawyer, but I can read. Sounds to me like any service effectuating transfers, that would include validators. I don't know how that doesn't include miners, stakers, probably includes hardware and software wallets, software developers, all across any kind of platform. We're going to ask these people to provide information that they don't have and they can't get. In what universe does that make any sense at all? All I want to do is have a vote on an amendment that fixes this in a way that has bipartisan agreement, in a way that constrains this to apply narrowly to the people who actually are the intermediaries running a centralized exchange who have this information. But apparently we're not going to be able to do that, so we'll be back on this because we're going to do a lot of damage. Who knows how much innovation we're going to stifle? Who knows exactly how this, what kind of new apps just never emerge? It's hard to predict what some kind of completely impossible mandate results in, but it's not good, and it's going to bring us back here having to try to clean up a mess which we could have prevented. I yield.
Couldn't have been put any better. That was incredible. Let's take a look at the military-industrial complex altar boy. Senator Shelby over here. So as we look at that, some people may come out of that very negative. Oh my God, they're going to cripple the industry. No, they're trying to make this a wedge issue, okay? They know how many people support this. They know how many votes are at stake. They know how much wealth is at stake. They know how much prosperity is at stake. They know how, if they want to remain relevant in the future with this entire generation of voters, they better toe the line. See what's happening? Bitcoin is taking center stage. Everyone has taken notice. Thousands upon thousands tuned in, called senators, told them what amendment they wanted to go for, and some had some great conversations with those senators. Want to hodl right here? This is a win, okay? Now, being at center stage, yes, we're going to be going up against very big, powerful institutions and organizations, but you got to remember that Bitcoin was designed to be attacked. The honey badger doesn't care. TikTok next block, it continues. And in the face of this, what did Bitcoin's price do? Bitcoin pumped. Bitcoin is now over 46,000. Amazon is looking at adding, insurance companies adopting. And with the bill passing the Senate, it is headed to the House, where, as we discussed earlier, we have new allies, such as Senator Ted Cruz, but also here we have Representative Emmer, sent a letter to all House representatives sounding the alarm on the infrastructure bill and what needs to be done and to follow Lummis, Toomey, Wyden, Portman, Sinema, all the people that took part in getting that done in the Senate. It's already being front-run in the House. Okay, so we have plenty of supporters. This is going to be looked at. Regardless of what transpires with this bill, this is another issue that will be coming up in midterm elections in the foreseeable future. This is a paradigm shift, okay? One thing is for sure, we may never see a politician come in without a Bitcoin strategy in the future. We're at the point where no news is bad news. Everything that puts us out there, everything that, just like this Senate hearing that took place with the amendments on the infrastructure bill, will expose people. Bitcoin has this odd way of exposing people and bringing some other people to the light. Senator Lummis, you are a badass. Representative Emmer, I have listened, and you guys should too. Go back and listen to some of the things he has said. Very free market minded individual. Okay. New allies, again, right here. Finally, let's round it out today. We're going to end it on a good one. And we've talked about this before. It's been on Twitter. It's everywhere. Yellow comes back. We're around what? 28, 29K? What the hell happens? And now, what's going on with Bitcoin? It's being discussed, debated, analyzed, and passionately supported on the floor of the Senate and the House of Representatives. And we're just getting fucking started, okay? This is our first round with these guys, and we're winning. If you're a little down, go stack some shit, okay? The prophecy is coming to fruition. Let us go check it out here. Our boy Yellow.
There's also the prophecy.
Let's talk about the prophecy. Please tell us what's the prophecy.
Believe in the prophecy. Just start, and I got you. Like we're gonna make everything good. Just I pumped just alone me. The price from 29 when all the TA experts were calling for 25. I said, fuck it. I'll be back on Twitter, and we pop the price, and that's it. So.
Yellow! The prophecy coming to fruition. Make no mistake. Okay? It is known. We're growing. We are doing huge things. If you're out there, continue to learn. Eat it up. We'll put some material in the show notes for those looking to go down the rabbit hole. Man, this is huge. This is a timeline you want to be in. Make sure you're on the right side. Make sure you're on the side of freedom. Make sure you're on the side of liberty. And make sure you're out there stacking some sats. Peace.